Here are 4 key ways to help unlock your strength and power for boxing. Hello everybody, welcome to Boxing Science. In this video, we're going to be sharing 4 key ways to truly unlock your maximum strength and power for boxing and combat sports. At Boxing Science, we're all about evidence-based training methods to help unlock an athlete's potential, to make them the best possible athlete that they can be to transfer towards their boxing and combat sport performance. This is why we do our strength, power and fitness testing to make sure that we're highlighting an athlete's strengths and areas for improvement, to make sure that we're giving them a more bespoke approach to get the optimal results. Now, there's some key things that we can do as part of our strength and conditioning programming and training to make sure that we're truly getting the maximum out and making sure that we're optimizing adaptations and improving performance. In this video, we're going to be sharing some 4 very simple tools that you can add to your strength and conditioning programming and your coaching to get the best out of your athletes. Tip number 1 is to give your athletes instant feedback using data. Now, this is something that we do often at Boxing Science, more or less every single session that we do, whether this is giving them feedback on their jump performance, their plyometrics, their landmine punch throw, their trap bar lifting velocities, and even their isometric exercises as well. We use the data to obviously inform performance, highlight strengths and areas for improvement, but also to track progress at the same time. But the main reason why we do this is to give athletes instantaneous feedback to make sure that they are lifting with maximum speed and intent. And we see improved performances from 5, 10, maybe even 15% improvements in just a single session. Some of these examples here with athletes using trap bar velocity, they're putting more speed into every rep because they're getting that number shouted out to them. When they're doing isometrics, whether that's a punch isometric against the wall or doing some floor press isometrics, giving them the feedback shows they're improving by 10% in between sets. This is really important. If you think about improving that performance 10% every single set that you do, improving every single session that you do, these percentages are going to stack up to increase adaptations. And these increased adaptations will help increase performance. There's a lot of scientific literature that backs velocity-based training feedback to help improve performance, and we do this every day in the Boxing Science Performance Center. Giving the athletes feedback, we've just seen it with some of these clips here. Athletes are getting faster, they're putting more intent into the isometric exercises, and doing this on a daily basis will stack up them percentages to help unlock their strength and power. Number 2 is using isometrics. So isometric exercises can be really beneficial for boxers because it's targeting that neuromuscular strength and power outputs without increasing the amount of load that they're lifting. Sometimes the amount of load that is lifted on a trap bar, on a squat, on a floor press can be limited due to technique, due to instability around the joints, and also through that eccentric loading, because we're not wanting to load up our athletes too much to make them sore for boxing. To truly unlock that strength and speed, working against an immovable object will help increase that force development and that rate of force development as well. So we use isometrics on a range of different exercises, from an isometric hip thrust to a floor press to split stance, trap bar, deadlift, and also doing it in our punch-specific exercises using some punch iso holds. We give athletes feedback on this as well, and mainly using it as part of our rotational strength training, using isometric pull-off press, whether it's against the wall or working against the cable. Now, something that is really important for isometrics is making sure that we are monitoring performance, making sure that we're giving athletes that data feedback. A lot of activities we can use force plates. However, not a lot of boxing gyms, S&C gyms, obviously Boxing Science Performance Center, we haven't got force plates. So we have to find ways on how we give the feedback to the athletes. On our pressing exercises, we can use a handheld dynamometer. We do this with the punch iso holds. Quite difficult to do this in a floor press. We can use a dynamometer for this or some sort of strength gauge. We've just recently got the valve force frame, getting that instant feedback. And we're using this for a range of different things, from shoulder diagnostics and also neck strength protocols as well. But we're using this for floor press to make sure that we're getting the maximum effort every single repetition. For lower body exercises, using weighing scales can be quite useful. The more weight load that's going through your feet, going through the scales, the more force that you're creating. And the goal is to try and create that force in the short amount of time. So whether you're doing a calf iso raise, which is fantastic to help improve plyometric performance, doing a single leg trap bar deadlift, or doing some isometric hip thrusts, giving an athlete feedback on how much force that they're putting through the feet is more or less just like using some force plates. So some of these weighing scales, obviously you can't just use ordinary bathroom scales on these. You'll have to get some heavy duty postal weighing scales, but this can cost anywhere between 60 to £100. This is going to be a lot cheaper. And then on the isometric rotational work, we use a dynamometer, valved dyno, and this is really a fantastic tool because we get feedback on peak force and rate of force development of this, so we can encourage athletes to lift heavy but fast at the same time. But then also, people can't afford this, just using the luggage crane will be good. So luggage crane, something that you can get off Amazon for 20 to 30 pounds. Adding this onto the cable pull-off press and just taking that peak force value will help encourage athletes putting maximum effort into that isometric rotation. Actually, we've seen that peak force on an isometric rotation has a 60% transfer towards performance on a landmine punch throw. So isometrics are a fantastic tool to try and help improve maximum force and rate of force development without compromised movement, technique, and loading limitations. These are fantastic strategies and solutions to help optimize strength and power for boxing and combat sports. Strategy number 3 is to use accommodating resistance. We found that using accommodating resistance, so this is using bands on top of exercises such as the floor press, barbell press, trap bar, deadlift, and on box squat variations as well. And also we use it for punch-specific exercises such as the landmine punch. Using the bands will help increase acceleration throughout the lift. So we're increasing acceleration, which will increase the amount of impulse that's created during the lift. And impulse is the biggest predictor of punching force. 90% of a punch force is due to the impulse created on delivery. We're needing to try and increase impulse as much as we can during our strength and conditioning activities. We can do this by lifting heavy or jumping high and moving fast, but also what we can do is use bands. Using the bands will make sure that our athlete is accelerating for longer throughout the movement, which will help increase impulse. Using accommodating resistance isn't just using it for strength speed activities, which a lot of athletes end up using it for some sort of dynamic strength activation, some dynamic strength development. This is actually can be used at heavier loads. So we often use accommodating resistance on 80 or even 90% 1 rep max. Accommodating resistance, a fantastic tool to help improve acceleration, help increase impulse, which will get a lot more out of that trap bar deadlift, out of that squat, rather than lifting without the bands. Tip number 4 in unlocking your strength and power for boxing and combat sports is to use loaded jumps. But to make sure that we're using a strategic approach to make sure that we're optimizing our loaded jumps. Now, loaded jumps are stuff like dumbbell counter movement jumps, banded jumps, and trap bar jump variations. This is becoming more and more popular across boxing and combat sports. But something that I see quite often, whether it's on social media or on YouTube, that this is often underloaded and athletes are jumping with light weights and jumping quite high. Whereas what we want to do is load it up a little bit heavier and not jump as high. Now, what we've done at Boxing Science, we've created a loaded jump profile where we're able to indicate when athletes should be jumping to help increase impulse and momentum and find the optimal load where impulse and momentum is at its highest point. And this is more like an inverted U, because obviously you can underload an athlete, you can overload an athlete as well. The number that we've seen is getting between 45 and 55% of an athlete's jump height. So this could be an athlete that can jump 50 centimeters and they're only now jumping 25 centimeters off the floor. Now, this feels like to the athlete that they're actually hardly getting off the floor, but due to the calculations that we use, this is where impulse and momentum is optimized, and this is what we're wanting to develop into faster and harder punches. So think about the load of jumps that you've been doing in the gym recently. Think about how heavy that they've been. You might have been actually underloading yourself. Imagine if you add on that extra 10 or 15 kilos onto your load of jumps, you can help increase that impulse and momentum values by 10, 15, or maybe even 20%. And you're doing this across the strength speed block, you're going to get increased adaptations to help improve strength and power for your boxing and combat sport performance. So a good tool to use on this is to just basically trying to get to 50% of your jump height. Obviously, you can go into doing a load of jump profiles and creating some calculations to work out impulse, but a general rule of thumb would be to target your load of jumps to be about 50% of your jump height, whether that's using a trap bar, banded jump, or a dumbbell jump variation. Obviously, we use the Opta jump at Boxing Science. We also use Output Sports, but also you can use My Jump. My Jump is an app that you can get on your phone, relatively cheap, and you can put in slow motion videos using some timestamps, and this will be able to estimate quite accurately what your jump height is. Right weight load to hit 50% of your jump height is the right way to go to help optimize impulse and momentum that can really help maximize your adaptations from your strength, speed, and power work. Okay guys, so that's the end of the video. 4 tips on how to truly unlock your maximum strength and power for boxing. Hopefully this has been beneficial. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comment box below. If you like this kind of video, hit the like button to help the growth of this video and help support the growth of the channel by hitting that subscribe button. And also you don't miss out on any future content. Thank you very much for watching. See you on the next video of Boxing Science.